Hello again. This is Couples Date Night coming to you on another Thursday evening where we get to talk about issues that pertain to married life. And today we are talking about having the extended family or how the extended family impacts our relationship. And we've been going through some of the details as to some of the things that we should do. And one of the things we said was making sure that you have boundaries. You have boundaries, and having boundaries means that you have to talk about what boundaries mean when it comes to you and the extended family. And the extended family could be made up of, cousins, brothers, uncles, grandparents, nephews, nieces, anybody or everyone involved, including that's included in your extended family. They are great people, they are wonderful people, and if these relationships are managed well, they are actually a positive addition to our family. They influence our family well, they provide the support we need. But if it's not managed well, and when I say it's not managed well, if we don't make the right decisions and they also are not matured enough to respond well, it could be a source of difficulty to ourselves and our marriages, and we do not want that. So our goal here is to make sure that we have the knowledge, the skills, and resources to handle issues when it comes to the extended family. So the next thing I want to talk about is having a united front. So the husband and wife have to come together with a united front on almost every topic. You have to speak the same language. You have to agree together. If there's a function and an uncle goes to your husband and say, "Oh, so is your child going to be going to a private school, a public school?" Both of you have agreed. You know how it's going to go down. It's not going to be the wife saying one thing and the husband saying another thing. If during an event a question is asked to both of you separately, the answer has to be the same. That shows that you have a united front. You agree on things. How things. Let's say there's a family vacation coming, where you're all planning on. The family, or maybe the grandparents say you should all go to Florida or go to Nairobi, Kenya for vacation. And that this year your older daughter is going to college and you need extra money to pay for college, so you will not be able to go on that trip. Both of you agree. You have a plan. You know that this year we can't. Next year, if you have a domestic trip, we will be able to go with you. So it's agreed. So when somebody has a question, this is our answer. We have a united front as to how we're going to deal with this. And it's okay if you can do everything the extended family wants to do. So one of the most common extended family conflict that arise is when somebody, maybe the grandparents, uncles or uncles, criticizing how their grandchild is being raised. This is a very good one. What do you do, when somebody questions how you're raising your child, how early you're giving your child a cell phone, or how late your child is staying up to watch a movie? What do you do? The good news is, since there's actually an attack on both of you, it should be easy for you to stand up and say, this is how we do it, or this is how we want to raise our children, But to say that you don't know what to say or do will really show how dysfunctional your own family is becoming, So it's important that, we have a way of dealing with this. Situations like this, it would be best to diffuse it as much as possible by deflecting it, by saying something like, "Oh, we've got this, my husband and I, or my wife and I will deal with this, we'll take care of it," so that you don't create a situation where you are saying one thing and your husband is saying another thing. We have to use a lot of tact and we have to really make sure that we are deflecting questions that we don't have answers for it. Or we're saying things politely, because if your grandparents, uncle or aunties are trying to criticize how you're raising your child, that really could really strike some emotions, and could really go downhill very quickly. But let's be very careful. Let's know who is asking that question. They might be doing it totally out of love, but again, let's have a united front, and let's make sure that we are addressing these issues before they become big issues. Let's address them while they are little, before they become big issues. Yeah. So, examine the relationships, dealing with overbearing in-laws. Are your in-laws realistic? The story I told earlier. If your in-laws are coming and they're telling you to leave your own bedroom and give it to them, that is not realistic. Let's examine these relationships and ask ourselves the question, if neither partner can seem to wiggle out of their parents' control, it's relatively of their own childhood. It's reflective of their own childhood. If you have a very authoritative relationship with your parents, and you are not able to make decisions, that is not a healthy relationship, especially if you have become an adult, where you have to make your own decisions. It's not a good idea to still be under the grasp of or the grip of your own parents. Sometimes it's culturally related too. This story, again, I'm going to go back to that same story where parents travel from overseas and come to visit their children, and they want their children to leave from their own bedroom for them. It might have cultural ties, which has to be addressed, in a very polite way. Sometimes it's just the parenting style, which has to be addressed. But again, in all of this, we're making sure that we're trying to identify, is the issue how we're relating with a family member, or this family member have their own issues already. If they have their own issues already, we have to learn to maybe love from a distance. Sometimes that's the best way, because the last thing you want to do is for them to bring their own issues to come and cause issues in your own home. So both partners need to make a concerted effort to examine the relationships and understand how best to approach all the dynamics of all the people in our families. Because as much as we need them, we also want to make sure that they are positively impacting our own marriage and not becoming a burden or adding more stress to what we are already dealing with, especially when you have children, where you're juggling everything from school, homework, after school, and doctor's visits and everything else that you have to juggle. Let's make sure we are managing those relationships, and let's make sure that it's not going to affect our marriage in any way. So choose sides carefully. So understand that whichever sides you take in a fight involving your extended family, you're going to end up making someone unhappy. The question becomes when you have to choose sides between your wife and your mother-in-law. What do you do? You're in trouble if you go with your not your mother-in-law, but your own mother. Let's say you're a husband and you have to choose sides between your own mother and your wife. What do you do in that case? You're going to end up making someone unhappy. So feelings of resentment can build up in situations where a partner chooses their own parents over their spouse. So when those feelings are starting to build up, you get into a danger zone where it puts a strain in your marriage. So not only with how you communicate, but sometimes even children may notice how you deal with these issues. In the long run, your kids won't take you into they won't hold you accountable, or they won't take this personal. But what is important is that it's a great opportunity for them to learn how you navigate these issues, how you respond, how you solve these issues when they come up. So let's make sure that we are making the best logical decisions when it comes to where we have to take sides. Now, when it comes to taking sides, if we're doing our homework well, if we are talking to each other as husband and wives, we will not find ourselves in a situation where we have to take sides, because if we've made the decisions already, except maybe somebody puts you on a stand during, Thanksgiving or a family situation and asks the question, was your mom's soup better than my wife's jollof? That's a question I will not answer. Don't put yourself in that situation to, create unnecessary conflict between you and your wife, or between you and your mother. The answer is they were all good, and we just move on. At the end of the day, food from a certain restaurant could be better than your mother's food or your wife's food. Yes, it's relative. You cannot compare them as apples to apples. This is very, very relative, and you cannot make that. So don't let anybody get you into choosing sides. Deflate it right away. If the question is coming up, just deflate it and say, we are not answering this question. Let's just move on. Because we want to make sure that we keep the environment healthy, we keep communication flowing, and we're keeping the marriage healthy as well. So as we move on, we have to focus on our spouse, stay loyal to and connect with each other despite any issues you might be experiencing with members of your family. At the end of the day, when you're back home as husband and wife, know that it's the two of you. No matter who, Uncle Bob or Uncle Kwabena or whoever is out there, at the end of the day, it's you and your wife, it's you and your husband. Have that at the back of your mind, that when questions are coming up, when somebody is trying to start strife or any form of conflict in your home, it's going to come down to the two of you. So however you handle it, the answers you provide, the facial expressions you give, it's all going to come down to the two of you going back home to live your lives. So make sure that the answers you give, the things you say, the expressions you give, you will not live to regret what you said or did. It comes down to the two of you. So let's think through things very well. Let's be wise and make sure that we're not creating any environment or any conditions that will later on come to hurt us. This is Sunlight Radio Online. My name is Akwesi Apong, and today we are talking about the extended family and our marriages, how they impact us, how they help us, how we need to navigate them well. And as I've often told you, if you want to learn more about all these resources we have, you can visit our website at www.enjoylifewithyourspouse.org. Thank you, and we'll be right back. Hello again, and thank you for joining us on another edition of our show today. We are talking about the extended family and how that impacts our relationship. And we have talked about so many things. The last point that I made before we went on the short break was making sure that we stay connected as husband and wife, because at the end of the day, both of you are going to go home together, and you don't want to create any awkward situations whilst you're out there. Having your extended family is a blessing. I know this because when my wife and our children were growing up, we had no family close by where we live, and we know the challenges we went through. But the truth of the matter is, having family helps, and learning to manage those family relationships is even better. It's even better. Learning to have boundaries is even better. So let's learn how to navigate these relationships. Let's learn how to make it better, so that a good thing will not become a stench to us as we develop our relationships. So as we move along, share what truly feels comfortable to you. Don't overshare what you don't want comments about when it comes to you and your spouse. When you're out there with the extended family, make sure you know what to talk about and what you don't want to talk about. What are you comfortable sharing? For example, you just got a promotion and the news just came out. You're getting ready to start that new job. You're not moving away, but you just are not comfortable talking about it. So before your family comes over or you and your wife goes out, agree that, you know what, I'm not going to talk about it now. Let some time pass. Let me get the offer letter. Let me start the new job before we make family aware. It's up to you. If you want to talk about it too, it's fine. I'm sure your family will love to know, some of the new things going on in your home. At the end of the day, the business, your business is between you and your spouse. You and your spouse know the things that are going on and what you can talk about. Be sure to create your own boundaries and clarify with clarity, and also clarify all the details as to the things you want other people to know and not know. I think we've talked about that quite enough. Talk about the issues with your spouse in a calm process. Talk about it thoroughly with a level of interest, knowing that the goal is to benefit the two of you. I think we've hinted a little bit on this already. Recognize social and cultural conditioning, because depending on the kind of family you have, there might be some cultural issues that you have to deal with. I've been in contact, or I've come into contact with couples who maybe the husband grew up in a different culture than his wife, and the two of them live in a different culture. That puts another level of complexity to the relationship. And if let's say your husband grew up in maybe China or Vietnam somewhere, and married a wife from Russia, and both of you live in the United States or in the United Kingdom, think about the complexities you have to deal with. The environment you live in is telling you one thing. Where he grew up is saying another thing, and where she grew up is also saying something totally different. And you have to learn how to normalize all these conflicting cultural influences, and also the culture in which you are growing up. And it becomes, something interesting to navigate. And what is key is your ability to talk about these things and to make sure that they don't become a thorn, they don't become a source of conflict between you and your extended family. We've talked about discussing the roles, discussing what you want your in-laws to know, or what you want the extended family to know, or what you do not want them to know. Always think before reacting or speaking, especially during family events, where you have nieces, nephews, uncles, cousins, and all of that. Talk about things and be honest. I also say that in these days, be very careful about extreme views, whether it's on politics, sports, or virus or anything, because you'll be amazed some of the extreme views some of your extended family members have. If you'll be in for a big surprise. So sometimes when I go places, I am very careful what I say and not say. These days, even at church, I don't want to talk about COVID-19 at church, especially when it comes to who is getting the shot or not, because you'll be amazed at the views some people have out there. So, and I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying they're extreme or maybe totally opposite to the views that you have. So let us be very careful. Let us respect the other person's view, because there might be a very good reason why their view is totally different from yours. Let us approach things in love and and with empathy, and let us also approach it knowing that they might have a very good reason for holding the view they have. And if they give us the opportunity to educate them based on what we think, let's do that. If they don't, let's just stick to our own view. We can try to persuade, but we cannot change people. We cannot change people. There was a teaching, I think this was by Miles Monroe. He said that where the Bible talks about we dominating the earth, the Bible didn't say we should dominate people. It said we're dominating things. But a lot of us try to dominate people and try to control people, and we can tell where that has left us. We haven't made any good progress trying to do so. Think about it yourself. How well are you able to dominate yourself? When we make New Year commitments, how well are we able to keep them? By the middle of January, at best February, we fall off the wagon of whatever New Year resolutions we made. We're not able to even dominate ourselves or control ourselves. How well can we do that? By trying to control somebody's view or change his view. We can try to persuade them. As the Bible tells us, it says, knowing the wrath of God, we persuade men. All that you can do is persuade. So let us be aware of this, as we get into this wonderful time of the year where we're going to be spending time with family and friends. Let's know that it's not about conflict or trying to change people, but the key thing here is making sure that we are having a great relationship, So don't involve your kids in your day-to-day thoughts about other members of the extended family. This is very important. Kids will always be kids, especially when you're toddlers. Before you know, you're out there and your toddler will say, oh, mommy said she doesn't like the blouse you wore the other day to the wedding. You don't want that happening. And I'm sure you are not also saying that. This is just an example. So let's make sure we know the things we're saying around our kids. And I'm sure we are not also saying things about people. That's a word. It's called gossip, and we don't want to be gossiping. Anything that we say has to be factual. If we're talking about facts, it's another thing. But let's not talk about things we don't like. If somebody likes it and we don't like it, that is our view, and that is fine. We always have to listen to try to understand the perspective of our spouse and the extended family. This is another very important point too. What about if you and your spouse are divided as to how to deal with an issue regarding or concerning a certain member of the extended family? It's not just the two of you agreeing or deciding, but what if two of you can agree? Are we going to let your cousin move in with us or not? Maybe you are saying yes and your wife is saying no. What do you do? That's also another thing where you have to be very objective. Ask yourself the questions. Why is he coming? Or why is she moving in with us? For how long? Why this decision in the first place? And being very objective about it will help you to know if this is the right thing to do, because you always have to put your relationship and your marriage and your home first. Because when people outside your own immediate family come into it, it often can cause some level of distraction with your children in their schedules and all of that. So, and again, cultural issues play into this as well. So let's be mindful of all of these things. Share your views, especially when it's about raising your children. So when it's about raising your children, sharing your views means that, if you want to take your children to public school or a private school or a Christian school or home school, be confident about it. And it's okay to talk about it and be ready to defend your view and stand by it and say, this is what I'm doing. And, if you want to talk about it, well, this is our decision and we're sticking to it. So let's be aware of this as well. So state what you would like to see in regards to the interactions of your extended family and your children. So that's another aspect to things that you have to talk about. What values are really important to you, instead of making a demand on others or trying to create somebody to cause somebody to understand you. A respectful sharing of your own values and customs and how they play into your family unit. So it's all about communicating and, laying down rules and setting up things that that will really help build your relationship up. It's very, very important. It's very, very important that we invest into that. So we've talked enough about setting boundaries. I can't say that enough. You don't want to become a victim of your family's invasion of your privacy. Set boundaries. I have said that and I'll say it again. Set boundaries. Clearly explain those boundaries to your family, your extended family, and say that, look, if you come to stay with us, please don't bring alcohol to my house, because I don't want you to come and drink alcohol in front of my children. You cannot smoke in my house. Those are boundaries. You set them, make them clear so that it's known. So that if you have to bring an extended family member into your house, those rules are in place and it's clear, and it's not going to affect not only the environment in your house but also the health of your family. So it's another thing we call triangulation. When there's a conflict between two people, it can be tempting to draw a third person into it. Oh, those tend to be interesting. This is when, you go for a family event and two people are holding a view and they say, what do you think about it? Guess they're trying to pull you into taking sides or joining, and then before you realize it's expanding the conflict. So as we think about all of this, what it boils down to is the two of you, husband and wife. What are the steps? What steps are you taking to make sure that you're building that relationship in your home? You're making your home stronger. Communication is flowing, and you are able to make these decisions before those days come. The days of the family reunions, the days of you meeting spending time with your in-laws. Let's make it healthy. Let's make it productive. Let's make it constructive, and let's know that our extended families are not our enemies. That is not the point here. We need them. We need to depend on them. We need to fall on them when hard times come. We need to call on them when we need support, whether it's emotional support or any form of support, and even when it comes to help. We talked about this at the top of the program. So let us make sure we manage these relationships. Let's make sure that they are adding value to our lives. And let's make sure that it's not becoming a problem, but it's becoming a blessing. Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Akwesi Apong. This is Couples Date Night. And again, our website is www.enjoylifewithyourspouse. And we'll be here again next week and hope to see you again. Take care and put these in progress, and make sure that you are enjoying life with your spouse.